When worlds collide, even the Force trembles. In the shadow of imperial might, a warrior prince from beyond the stars has appeared, one whose power flows not from kyber crystals or ancient teachings, but from the very essence of his being. The galaxy holds its breath as two unstoppable forces converge, a Sith Lord born from prophecy and betrayal, and a Saiyan forged in the fires of pride and conquest. What happens when raw power meets destiny in a universe unprepared for either? The volcanic world of Mustafar bled crimson against the void. Rivers of magma carved the blackened landscape, a testament to ancient rage made manifest. Heat distorted the very air, bending reality as it rose from fissures in the planet's wounded crust. It was a world bathed in hate, scarred by betrayal, and saturated with the dark side of the Force. A fitting throne for the Dark Lord who made this hellscape his sanctuary. In the obsidian tower that pierced the sulphurous clouds, Darth Vader stood motionless before the panoramic viewport. Through the red-tinted lenses of his mask, he observed the perpetual apocalypse below without emotion. 20 years had passed since he had been broken on these shores, remade into the Emperor's weapon, 20 years of existence rather than life. The constant pain that radiated from his mutilated body had become background noise, an old companion that never truly left. A disturbance rippled through the Force, sharp and sudden like a stone dropped into still water. Vader turned from the viewport, his respirator maintaining its mechanical rhythm despite the quickening of his pulse. This was no ordinary fluctuation. It was as if a star had ignited within the fabric of reality itself, tearing a hole in the very essence of the Force. "Admiral," Vader addressed the hologram that shimmered before him, "deploy probe droids to the southern hemisphere. There is something there that requires my attention." "Yes, Lord Vader," replied the ghostly blue figure before, dissolving into static. The Dark Lord moved toward his meditation chamber. Whatever had arrived on Mustafar carried power, power that belonged to the Empire, power that would serve the Emperor, or be destroyed. The southern hemisphere of Mustafar was a desolation of black glass and fire. Probe droids hovered over the twisted terrain, their sensors scanning for the anomaly that had triggered Imperial alerts. One by one, they began to fail, their transmissions cutting to static before ending entirely. In the heart of a massive impact crater, ringed by geysers of flame, a figure stood unmoved by the inferno that surrounded him. His arms were crossed over a white chest plate, his face set in a perpetual scowl beneath a widow's peak of upswept black hair. The armor he wore, though alien to this galaxy, bore the marks of countless battles. Blue undersuit, white gloves and boots, all seemingly impervious to the hellish environment. Vegeta, Prince of all Saiyans, last royal blood of a dead world, surveyed the volcanic landscape with cold calculation. The transition had been violent. One moment battling Frieza's forces on planet Namek, the next hurled through a rift in space-time to this burning world. The last thing he remembered was a brilliant flash of energy and the sensation of being torn apart and reassembled, molecule by molecule. "Primitive," he muttered, looking up at the Imperial probe droids that circled him like carrion birds. With a casual flick of his hand, he released a small burst of ki that reduced the nearest droid to molten debris. The others retreated, maintaining distance while continuing surveillance. The Saiyan warrior closed his eyes, extending his other senses. This place reeked of malevolence, a darkness that permeated the very ground. It felt almost like energy, but different from the ki he commanded. More elusive, more pervasive, and nearby, a cluster of life forms approaching rapidly. Vegeta smirked. Perhaps this wasteland would provide some entertainment after all. Imperial Shuttle TI-5219 cut through the sulphurous atmosphere, flanked by TIE fighters that screamed in formation. Inside the shuttle, stormtroopers checked their blasters with practiced precision. None spoke. The presence of Darth Vader, who stood at the forward viewport watching their descent, extinguished any desire for conversation. The Dark Lord felt the anomaly growing stronger as they approached the crater. It was unlike anything he had encountered before, not Jedi, not Sith, yet powerful beyond measure. The Force swirled around it like water circling a drain, drawn to it yet somehow unable to touch it. "Lord Vader," the pilot called, "we are receiving no response to Imperial hailing frequencies. Visual confirmation of a humanoid subject at the coordinates." "Land at a safe distance," Vader commanded. "I will confront this intruder personally." The shuttle settled on a plateau of obsidian overlooking the crater. Vader emerged down the ramp, his cape billowing in the hot wind that carried ash and embers. He gestured for the stormtroopers to form a perimeter but remain back. This confrontation would require his personal attention. Descending into the crater, each mechanical step bringing him closer to the anomaly, Vader felt something he had not experienced in decades: uncertainty. The figure stood with his back turned, apparently unconcerned by the Dark Lord's approach. The stranger was shorter than Vader had expected, compact but radiating lethal capability. "You trespass on Imperial territory," Vader's baritone voice carried across the charred ground. "Identify yourself." The figure turned slowly, revealing a face etched with arrogance and contempt. His eyes, dark and calculating, showed no fear, only annoyance at being addressed. "I am Vegeta, Prince of all Saiyans," he replied, his voice carrying a resonant pride that matched the Dark Lord's authority. "And I go where I please." Vader ignited his lightsaber, the crimson blade, humming with lethal energy. "Then you please to die." Vegeta's expression shifted from annoyance to amusement. "A glowing sword? How quaint." He uncrossed his arms, settling into a combat stance. "Show me what passes for strength in this pitiful world." The two warriors circled each other, neither willing to strike first, both measuring their opponent. The Force flowed around Vader, amplifying his perception, feeding his strength with the dark side energy that saturated Mustafar. Yet something was wrong. He could sense the stranger, could see the outline of his presence in the Force, but could not touch him with it. It was as if the Saiyan existed in a parallel reality, visible but untouchable. Vader attacked first, lightsaber arcing through the air with impossible speed. Vegeta sidestepped with casual grace, the blade passing through empty air. The Saiyan's counterattack was blindingly fast, a punch aimed at Vader's chest plate. The Dark Lord barely managed to deflect it with the hilt of his lightsaber, the impact still sending him sliding backward several meters. "Impressive," Vader admitted, regaining his stance. "You have power, but you lack discipline." Vegeta smirked. "And you talk too much." The Saiyan launched forward, moving faster than human eyes could track. Vader, guided by the Force, brought his lightsaber up in defense, but Vegeta altered his trajectory mid-flight, appearing behind the Dark Lord. A boot to Vader's back sent him tumbling forward. The Sith Lord quickly recovered, whirling to face his opponent. "The Force is with me," Vader intoned, reaching out with his mind to grasp the Saiyan. For the first time, confusion crossed Vegeta's face as he felt an invisible pressure attempting to hold him. It was different from the gravity manipulation he had trained under, more subtle yet insistent. With a burst of his ki, he shattered the telekinetic grip, blue energy briefly flaring around his body. "Your magic tricks are nothing," Vegeta taunted. "Let me show you real power." The Saiyan raised his hand, palm outward. A sphere of brilliant energy coalesced, illuminating the crater with harsh light. Vader sensed the immense destructive potential gathering before him, far beyond what any kyber crystal could channel. With a shout, Vegeta released the blast. Vader crossed his arms before him, calling on the Force to create a barrier. The energy blast collided with the Force shield, the impact driving Vader's boots into the ground. The Dark Lord strained against the raw power, feeling his connection to the Force begin to waver under the assault. With tremendous effort, he deflected the blast upward, where it vanished into the churning clouds. Vegeta nodded, a hint of respect in his expression. Not completely worthless after all. Vader's breathing apparatus worked overtime to supply oxygen to his damaged lungs. This opponent was beyond anything he had faced since his transformation. Not even the remaining Jedi had commanded such raw power. A reassessment was necessary. "You are not of this galaxy," Vader stated, deactivating his lightsaber but remaining vigilant. "How came you to Mustafar?" Vegeta scoffed. "I have no idea what backwater system this is. One moment I was on planet Namek, the next I was here in this hellscape. Not that it matters. Once I find transport, I'll leave this rock behind." Vader considered the implications. An interdimensional traveler with power that rivaled or exceeded his own. The Emperor would be most interested. "Perhaps we need not be enemies," Vader offered, his mechanical voice betraying no emotion. "The Empire spans the galaxy. We command resources beyond imagination. Join us, and you will have power and position befitting your royal status." Vegeta's laugh was sharp and humorless. "I've heard such offers before, masked man. I served one tyrant already. I have no intention of bending the knee to another." "Then you will be destroyed," Vader replied coldly, reigniting his prass lightsaber. "Many have tried." Vegeta responded, his body tensing for combat once more. Before they could re-engage, the ground beneath them trembled. The constant volcanic activity of Mustafar was intensifying, perhaps responding to the massive energy both warriors had unleashed. A geyser of lava erupted between them, temporarily halting their confrontation. "This is not over," Vader declared, backing toward his shuttle as more eruptions began across the crater. "Count on it," Vegeta replied, taking to the air with casual ease, hovering above the unstable ground. Vader observed the Saiyan's flight capability with cold calculation, another ability to report to the Emperor. As he retreated to the Imperial shuttle, he activated his comlink. "Admiral, deploy the fleet. I want this planet blockaded. Nothing leaves without my personal authorization." From his vantage point in the air, Vegeta watched the shuttle ascend. Through the clouds, he glimpsed the dagger-shaped vessels in orbit. It seemed this empire was substantial indeed, a military dictatorship from all appearances, not unlike Frieza's organization, though undoubtedly less advanced given the primitive weapons he had observed. The Saiyan prince descended to a ridge overlooking a lava flow, settling into a meditative posture. He needed to gather information before acting. Understand the balance of power in this new reality, find potential allies or useful pawns, and most importantly, discover if there was a way back to his own universe. Kakarot was still out there, and their battle remained unfinished. On the bridge of the Star Destroyer Exacta, Darth Vader kneeled before the hologram of Emperor Palpatine. The aged ruler's face was mostly hidden beneath the hood of his dark robe, but his eyes gleamed with interest as Vader recounted his encounter. "A warrior from another reality?" Palpatine mused, his voice a silken rasp. "With power to rival a Sith Lord? Most intriguing, Lord Vader. He resists force. Manipulation, my master. And his energy attacks exceed anything in our records." Palpatine's thin lips curved into a smile. "Then he would make a powerful ally. Or a dangerous example." The Emperor leaned forward, his holographic image flickering slightly. "Bring him to me, Lord Vader. Alive if possible, but if he cannot be turned, he will be destroyed." Vader completed the familiar directive. "Do not underestimate him again," Palpatine cautioned. "Deploy whatever resources necessary. This, Saiyan, could be useful in our efforts against the growing rebellion." "Yes, my master." As the hologram faded, Vader turned to the viewport. Somewhere on the hellish world below, the alien warrior was planning his next move. The Dark Lord clenched his mechanical fist. Their next encounter would end differently. Vegeta had spent hours observing the Imperial blockade from his position on Mustafar's surface. The fleet was substantial, dozens of the large triangular vessels and hundreds of smaller craft maintaining orbit. Escaping would be simple enough, none of their weapons appeared capable of harming him, but leaving without information would be foolish. His attention was drawn to movement on the horizon. A small ship, different from the Imperial designs, was attempting a stealthy landing in a valley several kilometers distant. Interesting. Perhaps someone who could provide answers. With a burst of energy, Vegeta took to the sky, staying low to avoid detection. As he approached, he saw the vessel was worn but well maintained, clearly built for speed and maneuverability rather than combat. Near it, 3 figures were unloading equipment with practiced efficiency. Vegeta landed on a ridge overlooking their position, suppressing his power level to avoid detection. The group consisted of a tall, fur-covered humanoid, a human male in a worn jacket, and a blue-skinned female with headtails instead of hair. All were armed with blaster pistols, though the furry one also carried a bowcaster, a weapon Vegeta had not yet seen. "Hurry up," the human was saying. "Imperial patrols are heavy in this sector. We need to get the Kyber crystals and get out." "Relax, Han," the blue female replied. "My intel is solid. The old Jedi temple is just beyond that ridge, and it's been abandoned since the Purge." The furry creature growled something unintelligible, at least to Vegeta. Yeah, I know it's dangerous," the human called Han responded. "Everything we do for the rebellion is dangerous. But these crystals are crucial for the operation on Lothal. Rebellion. Interesting. So there was organized resistance against the Empire, potentially useful." The blue female suddenly froze, her head tails twitching. "We're being watched," she whispered, drawing her blaster. Vegeta smirked. Some sort of enhanced perception. He decided to make his presence known, dropping from the ridge to land before the startled group. All 3 immediately raised their weapons. It won't help you," Vegeta stated flatly. "If I wanted you dead, you would be already." The furry one, some kind of warrior, judging by his stance, growled threateningly. "Easy, Chewie," Han cautioned, keeping his blaster trained on Vegeta. "What do you want?" "Information," Vegeta replied. "I'm new to this galaxy, and I find myself in conflict with the Empire." The blue female tilted her head, her suspicion evident. "You're not Imperial. What species are you?" "I am a Saiyan," Vegeta declared with pride, "a warrior race from a planet called Vegeta." "Never heard of it," Han said skeptically. "And we've been around." "You wouldn't have," Vegeta responded. "I'm not from your reality." The 3 exchanged glances, clearly doubting his sanity. Vegeta sighed in annoyance. A demonstration would be faster than explanation. He pointed at a boulder nearby. "Watch." With a casual gesture, he sent a beam of energy that reduced the massive rock to dust. The rebels stepped back in shock, weapons still raised but now trembling slightly. "By the Force?" the blue female whispered. "That's some trick," Han admitted, visibly reassessing the situation. "You do that without a weapon?" "It's called Ki," Vegeta explained impatiently. "Life energy. Now, tell me about this rebellion of yours, and this empire I'm dealing with." The blue female slowly holstered her weapon, a decision that clearly made her companions nervous. "I'm Arlena, that's Han and Chewbacca. We're with the Alliance to restore the Republic. The Empire has ruled the galaxy with an iron fist for 2 decades, since Emperor Palpatine declared himself ruler and exterminated the Jedi Order." Vegeta questioned. "Force users," Arlena explained. "They could move objects with their minds, influence thoughts, see glimpses of the future. For thousands of years, they were peacekeepers in the Republic." "And this Force," Vegeta pressed, "it's the energy the Masked One tried to use against me?" The 3 rebels exchanged alarmed looks. "You fought Vader?" Han asked incredulously. "And you're still breathing?" Vegeta snorted. He was hardly a challenge, though his energy manipulation was interesting, different from Ki. Chewbacca growled a lengthy statement that Vegeta couldn't understand. "Chewie's right," Han translated. "If you've got Vader's attention, you're in trouble. He doesn't give up, and he's got the resources of the entire Empire behind him." "I'm not concerned about resources," Vegeta replied dismissively. But I am interested in learning more about this force, and about potential transportation off this rock. Arlena studied him intently. If you truly fought Vader and survived, the rebellion would be very interested in meeting you. Our ship can take you to our base if you're willing to speak with our leaders. Vegeta considered the offer. These rebels were clearly outmatched by the Empire, but they might have information he needed, and if this force was as pervasive as they suggested, understanding it could be key to finding a way back to his own universe. Very well, he agreed, but I make no promises of allegiance. I serve no one but myself. That's kind of our motto too, Han quipped, holstering his blaster. Welcome aboard, Scion. The Millennium Falcon broke atmosphere under heavy fire. TIE fighters screamed in pursuit, green laser fire peppering the space around the freighter. In the cockpit, Han and Chewbacca worked the controls with practiced coordination, executing evasive maneuvers that belied the ship's worn appearance. Your vessel is pathetically slow, Vegeta commented from behind them, standing with arms crossed, apparently unconcerned by the pursuit. She's got it where it counts, Han shot back, pulling the ship into a tight barrel roll that narrowly avoided a barrage from the Star Destroyer looming ahead. If you're so powerful, why don't you help instead of criticizing? Vegeta scoffed but moved toward the gunner station where Arlena was returning fire. Allow me, he said, taking the controls. The targeting system was primitive by his standards, but Vegeta quickly adapted. With precision born from countless battles, he began picking off TIE fighters one by one. Where Arlena had been striking 1 in 10 shots, Vegeta hit with virtually every blast. Impossible, Arlena murmured, watching as he decimated the Imperial pursuit. Child's play, Vegeta replied. Your enemies rely too much on numerical advantage and too little on skill. In the cockpit, Han was frantically plotting a hyperspace jump. Coordinates for the rendezvous point locked in. Hold on back there. The stars elongated into streaks of light as the Falcon made the jump to hyperspace, leaving the Imperial fleet behind. Once safely in transit, Han joined the others in the main hold, eyeing Vegeta with a mixture of wariness and reluctant respect. Not bad shooting, he admitted. But who exactly are you, and why is the Empire so interested in you, that they locked down an entire planet? Vegeta leaned against the bulkhead, arms crossed over his chest armor. As I said, I am Vegeta, Prince of the Saiyans. In my reality, I am among the strongest warriors in the universe. I was engaged in battle when something tore the fabric between dimensions. I found myself on that volcanic world where I encountered your Darth Vader. And you just fought him? Arlena asked incredulously. He challenged me, Vegeta replied with a shrug. I responded. He was stronger than I expected for such a primitive world, but ultimately unimpressive. Chewbacca growled something that made Han laugh. What did the furball say? Vegeta demanded. He said your ego's even bigger than Vader's. Han translated with a smirk. And that's saying something. Vegeta's expression darkened momentarily before he relaxed again. Your friend should be careful. I've destroyed beings far more formidable than him for lesser insults. Arlena stepped between them, diffusing the tension. You mentioned wanting to learn about the Force. Why? This energy you call the Force is different from Ki, Vegeta explained. It seems to permeate everything here, yet I cannot access it as Vader did. Understanding it may be key to finding a way back to my own universe. The Alliance has a few Force-sensitive individuals, Arlena said thoughtfully. Not fully trained Jedi, but they might be able to help you understand it better than we can. These Force users, Vegeta pressed, how do they compare to Vader? Han snorted. Nobody compares to Vader except maybe the Emperor himself. Those two are in a league of their own. The Emperor rules through fear and manipulation, but Vader... He shuddered slightly. Vader is just pure destruction. Vegeta smirked. Then perhaps I should meet this Emperor. He sounds like someone worth testing my strength against. The three rebels stared at him in disbelief. You don't just meet the Emperor, Han said slowly, as if speaking to a child. He's the most heavily guarded individual in the galaxy, and if you somehow got past all that security, he'd crush you before you could blink. The power he wields. Power is relative, Vegeta interrupted. In my world, I've faced beings who could destroy planets with a gesture. Somehow I doubt your Emperor matches that. An uncomfortable silence fell over the group as they processed his words. Finally, Arlena spoke. We're taking you to meet Commander Raylan of the Alliance. He'll decide what to do with you. If you truly are as powerful as you claim, you could be an invaluable ally against the Empire. I am not interested in your rebellion, Vegeta stated flatly. My only concern is returning to my own universe to settle unfinished business. Though, he added with a predatory smile, I wouldn't mind humbling your Emperor and his masked servant before I leave. Han and Chewbacca exchanged worried glances. They had picked up many strange passengers over the years, but none quite like this arrogant warrior who spoke of facing the two most powerful beings in the galaxy as if discussing a casual sparring match. We'll be at the rendezvous in 6 hours, Han said finally. Until then, try not to break anything. The Falcon's temperamental enough as it is. Vegeta nodded curtly and moved to a corner of the hold, settling into a meditative posture. The 3 rebels retreated to the cockpit, voices lowered in urgent discussion. Alone with his thoughts, Vegeta closed his eyes, focusing on the strange energy that surrounded him. The Force, they called it. Unlike Ki, which burned within living beings, this energy seemed to flow between and through everything, connecting all matter in ways he couldn't fully grasp. Yet it remained just beyond his reach, visible but untouchable. If the Empire's rulers were masters of this force, they might indeed possess knowledge useful to his purpose, and if not, well, conquering a galaxy might be an amusing diversion while he searched for a way home. Thousands of light years away, on the bridge of the Executor, Darth Vader stood before a holographic projection of the galaxy. Red markers indicated the last known coordinates of the freighter that had escaped Mustafar with the Scion aboard. They will be heading for a rebel base, he stated to Admiral Piet, who stood at attention nearby. Deploy probe droids to these sectors. He indicated several regions of space with a wave of his gloved hand. And put our agent network on high alert. I want this alien found. Yes, Lord Vader, Piet acknowledged, turning to relay the orders. The Dark Lord returned his gaze to the holographic map, his mechanical breathing echoing in the silence. The encounter on Mustafar had been educational. For the first time in many years, he had faced an opponent who was not afraid, who might, in truth, be his superior in raw power. The thought should have been disturbing. Instead, Vader found it oddly stimulating. A true test, at last. One that would require all his cunning, all his mastery of the dark side. And if the Scion could not be turned to the Emperor's service, then Vader would find his weakness. Every being had one, even a prince from another universe. The Alliance base on Arbra was hidden beneath the dense canopy of a jungle continent. As the Millennium Falcon descended through the atmosphere, Vegeta observed the lush landscape with mild interest. After the hellscape of Mustafar, the vibrant green world seemed almost unreal. Keep your hands visible when we land, Han instructed as they approached the hidden landing pad. Our people are a bit jumpy around newcomers. Vegeta snorted but made no argument. These rebels were his best lead at the moment, though he doubted they would provide much useful information. Still, understanding the political landscape of this galaxy might prove advantageous. The Falcon settled onto the landing pad, immediately surrounded by armed soldiers in mismatched uniforms. The ramp lowered, and Han led the way down, hands raised in a placating gesture. "Easy, folks," he called out. "We've got a visitor who needs to speak with command." A stern-faced woman with captain's insignia approached, her blaster held at the ready. "Identify," she demanded. "It's me, Zarina," Han replied with exasperation. You know, the guy who smuggled those shield generators last month, the ones that kept this base from being detected? The captain, Zarina, didn't lower her weapon. Protocol solo, especially with an unscheduled arrival and an unknown subject. Vegeta stepped forward, ignoring the weapons that immediately trained on him. "This is tedious," he stated. "Take me to your leaders or don't. Either way, stop wasting my time." Zarina's eyes narrowed. "And who exactly are you?" "He's the reason we cut our Mustafar mission short," Arlena interjected, descending the ramp. "And possibly the reason we made it past the Imperial blockade at all. Command will want to hear about him." After a tense moment, Zarina nodded curtly. "Fine, but he's escorted at all times. And he surrenders any weapons?" Vegeta smirked. "I carry no weapons. I need none." The captain clearly didn't like his answer, but gestured for her soldiers to form a perimeter around the group. They were led through a series of camouflaged entrances into an underground facility that sprawled beneath the jungle floor. The base was impressive in its efficiency, if not its technology. Personnel moved with purpose, and despite the obvious shortage of resources, everything appeared well maintained. They were brought to a conference room where several officers waited around a holographic display table. At their center stood a tall, gray-haired human male with the bearing of a lifelong military man. "Commander Raylan," Zarina announced. "The Millennium Falcon returned early from their Mustafar operation with this individual. They requested an immediate audience." Raylan studied Vegeta with shrewd eyes that had seen too many battles. "Thank you, Captain. You may leave us." As Zarina and her soldiers reluctantly withdrew, Raylan gestured to the empty chairs around the table. "Please, be seated." Han, Chewbacca, and Arlena took seats, but Vegeta remained standing, arms crossed over his chest armor. "I prefer to stand," he stated flatly. Raylan nodded, unperturbed. "As you wish. I understand from Captain Zarina's report that you encountered our team on Mustafar. That's an Imperial stronghold. What were you doing there?" "I did not choose to be there," Vegeta replied. "I was transported from my own universe during a battle. Your Empire and I have disagreed on my right to leave." One of the officers scoffed. "Another universe? Do you expect us to believe that?" Vegeta's eyes narrowed dangerously. "I expect nothing from you, least of all belief. Your opinion is irrelevant to me." Before tensions could escalate further, Arlena spoke up. "Commander, he demonstrated abilities unlike anything I've seen. Power that doesn't appear to come from the Force, yet is equally formidable. He claims to have fought Darth Vader to a standstill." This statement caused a ripple of murmurs around the table. Raylan leaned forward, his interest clearly piqued. "Is this true?" he asked Vegeta directly. "The masked one was stronger than I expected," Vegeta admitted, "but ultimately no match for me, though his energy manipulation this Force was unfamiliar." An older woman with silver streaks in her dark hair spoke up. "Commander, if what he says is true, he could be an invaluable asset. Imagine having a warrior who could stand against Vader on our side." "I am on no one's side," Vegeta interrupted sharply. "I seek information that might help me return to my own universe. Nothing more." Raylan studied Vegeta for a long moment before nodding slowly. "Fair enough. What kind of information are you looking for?" "I need to understand this Force energy that permeates your galaxy," Vegeta replied. "It's different from the key energy I manipulate. Understanding it may help me find a way back." "We have limited knowledge of the Force ourselves," Raylan admitted. "The Jedi who understood it best were systematically exterminated by the Empire. Those few who survived are in hiding." "Then find me one," Vegeta demanded. "Surely your rebellion has contacts." The officers exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable with his directness. Finally, Raylan nodded to a young aide who quickly left the room. "We may have someone who can help you," Raylan said carefully, "but I need assurance that you won't endanger our operation here. We're fighting for the freedom of the entire galaxy." Vegeta's laugh was sharp and humorless. Your galactic squabbles mean nothing to me. But, he added, seeing the hardening expressions around the table, I have no interest in revealing your location to the Empire. They've already made themselves my enemies. The door slid open, and the aide returned, accompanied by an elderly Togruta female. Her orange skin was faded with age, the white markings on her face accentuated by wrinkles earned through decades of hardship. Despite her apparent frailty, she moved with the fluid grace of a lifelong warrior. "Commander." She greeted Raylan with a respectful nod before turning her attention to Vegeta. Her eyes, clouded with age yet still sharp with intelligence, widened slightly as she regarded him. "Day. Interesting," she murmured. "You exist in the Force, yet the Force does not flow through you, like a stone in a river present but impermeable." Vegeta uncrossed his arms, his full attention now on the Togruta. "You can sense this Force?" "I was once a Jedi Padawan," she replied, "before the Purge. My training was never completed, but I learned enough to feel the currents of the Force. And you, stranger, are unlike anything I've encountered in my long life." "This is Ashla," Raylan introduced. "The Togruta. She's been with the rebellion since the beginning. If anyone here can help you understand the Force, it's her." Vegeta inclined his head slightly, the closest thing to respect he had shown since arriving. "Then perhaps we have things to discuss." Ashla smiled gently. "Indeed we do. But first, I believe our friends would appreciate knowing exactly what manner of being they've brought into their sanctuary." She turned to Raylan. "With your permission, Commander, I would like to take our visitor to the meditation chamber. It's secure, and I may be able to help him find some answers." Raylan nodded, though concern creased his brow. "Very well. But take a security detail with you." "That won't be necessary," Ashla assured him. "If this warrior wished us harm, no security detail would stop him." She turned to Vegeta with a knowing smile. "Isn't that right, Prince of Science?" Vegeta's lips curled into a smirk. Finally, someone who understands. The meditation chamber was a small room deep within the underground complex. Unlike the utilitarian design of the rest of the base, this space had been crafted with care. The walls were lined with sound-dampening material, and several cushions were arranged on a floor of woven natural fibers. The lighting was dim, creating a peaceful atmosphere at odds with the constant activity outside. Ashla settled onto one of the cushions with practiced ease, gesturing for Vegeta to take another across from her. The Saiyan remained standing for a moment, studying the elderly Togruta with narrowed eyes before finally sitting, though he maintained his rigid posture. "You're not what I expected from a warrior monk," Vegeta commented, taking in her frail appearance. Ashla chuckled softly. "The body weakens with age, but the spirit need not. I sense great power in you, but also great conflict. Save your mystical insights," Vegeta replied curtly. "I need practical information about this Force energy, not philosophy." "The two cannot be separated," Ashla countered. "The Force is not merely energy to be manipulated like your ki. It is the binding fabric of all existence in this galaxy. It flows through all living things, connecting them, influencing them, being influenced by them. It has a will of its own." Vegeta frowned. "That makes no sense. Energy is energy. It can be measured, controlled, directed. And yet, you cannot touch the Force as you do your ki," Ashla observed. "Why do you think that is?" The question gave Vegeta pause. He had been pondering this very issue since his encounter with Vader. "Because I'm not from this universe," he suggested. "The natural laws may be different." Ashla nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps. Or perhaps it's because the Force responds to belief, to openness. You approach energy as something to be dominated, conquered. The Force cannot be mastered through force of will alone. It requires surrender." Vegeta's expression hardened. "I do not surrender." "Then you will never truly understand the Force," Ashla said simply. "But that doesn't mean we cannot find what you seek." She leaned forward, her aged eyes suddenly intense. "Tell me exactly how you came to be here, the moment of transition." Vegeta described the battle on Namek, the sudden rift in reality, the sensation of being torn apart and reassembled. As he spoke, Ashla closed her eyes, her brow furrowed in concentration. "There are places in our galaxy where the fabric of space-time is thin," she said when he had finished. "Vergences in the Force, places of great power or significance. Mustafar is one such place, deeply connected to the dark side. It's possible that a similar nexus point in your universe aligned momentarily with ours, creating a pathway between realities. Then such a pathway could be recreated," Vegeta concluded, a hint of eagerness breaking through his stoic demeanor. "Potentially," Ashla cautioned, "but it would require immense power and precise control. The kind of power few beings possess." Vegeta's mind immediately went to the Empire's rulers. This Emperor and his servant? They command such power? Ashla's expression darkened. The Emperor's mastery of the dark side is unparalleled in our time. If anyone could manipulate the Force to open such a pathway, it would be him. She fixed Vegeta with a warning gaze. "But Palpatine does nothing without purpose. If he helped you, it would be to further his own ends. And the price would be steep." "I care nothing for his ends," Vegeta replied dismissively. "Once I have what I need, he would be irrelevant." "You underestimate him at your peril," Ashla warned. "Many have thought themselves beyond his manipulation, only to become his unwitting tools." She paused, studying Vegeta intently. "There is another option. The ancient Jedi texts spoke of vergences in the Force, places where reality itself is malleable. If we could locate such a place." "Where would we find these vergences?" Vegeta demanded. "The most powerful ones were built upon by the Jedi and the Sith for their temples," Ashla explained. "Most are now controlled by the Empire or have been destroyed, but there are others, less known, in remote regions of the galaxy." Vegeta considered this information. "These vergences, they're connected to your Force, which I cannot manipulate. How would finding one help me?" "Your key energy exists regardless of which universe you're in," Ashla pointed out. "If you could channel enough of it at a vergence point, while someone versed in the Force guided the process, it might be enough to tear open the fabric between realities again." "Someone versed in the Force," Vegeta repeated, his eyes narrowing. "Someone like you?" Ashla shook her head. "My connection to the Force is not strong enough for such a task. It would require a fully trained Jedi Master, or a Sith Lord." The implication hung in the air between them. Vader or the Emperor would have the necessary power, but dealing with either would be dangerous. Yet the alternative, searching the galaxy for both a vergence and a Force user powerful enough to help, seemed equally daunting. Before Vegeta could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the base. The door to the meditation chamber slid open, and Han burst in, his expression grim. "Imperial fleet just dropped out of hyperspace," he announced. "They've found us. Evacuation is underway." Ashla rose swiftly despite her age. "How?" "Our shields should have hidden us from their scanners." "Someone talked," Han replied tersely. "Or they've got a new tracking system. Either way, we've got maybe 20 minutes before they start landing troops." Vegeta stood, his face set in a cold mask of determination. "They're here for me." "Probably," Han admitted. "But it doesn't matter now. We need to get our people out." Ashla turned to Vegeta, her expression solemn. "What will you do, Prince of Science? This is not your fight." Vegeta considered for a moment. These rebels had provided valuable information, and the Togrutar's insights about the vergences could be crucial to finding his way home. Moreover, the Empire's pursuit was becoming an irritant. "I will give your people time to escape," he declared, moving toward the door. "Consider it payment for the information." Han looked skeptical. "You against an entire Imperial fleet? That's suicide." Vegeta's smile was cold and confident. "For them, perhaps. On the bridge of the Star Destroyer Exactor, Darth Vader surveyed the green world below. The probe droid's information had been precise. The rebel base was indeed hidden beneath the jungle canopy on the northern continent. Soon, the Alliance would lose another sanctuary, and the Scion would be in Imperial custody. "Lord Vader," an officer called. "Our scanners are detecting a small craft launching from the surface. It appears to be a single fighter, unarmed." "Visual identification," Vader commanded, his mechanical breathing the only indication of his growing anticipation. The view screen flickered, showing a small vessel ascending rapidly toward the Imperial fleet. It was not a design familiar to Imperial records, more like a spherical pod than a proper spacecraft. "It's him," Vader stated, recognizing the energy signature that had been imprinted in his memory since their encounter on Mustafar. "Prepare my shuttle. I will intercept personally." "But Lord Vader," the captain protested, "our turbolasers would be ineffective," Vader interrupted. "This is no ordinary adversary." He turned to Admiral Piet. "Continue with the ground assault as planned. The rebels must not escape." "Yes, Lord Vader," Piet acknowledged, knowing better than to question further. As Vader strode toward the hangar bay, he reached out with the Force, feeling the approaching presence of the Scion. Unlike the rebel forces below, who registered as points of light and fear in the Force, Vegeta was a void visible by the absence of the Force rather than its presence. A black hole among stars. The Dark Lord entered his advanced TIE fighter, specially modified for his personal use. As the vessel launched from the Star Destroyer, he opened a comm channel. "Scion," he transmitted on an open frequency. "You cannot escape the Empire." The response came immediately, filled with arrogant confidence. "I'm not trying to escape, fool. I'm coming to you." The small pod accelerated suddenly, moving at a speed that defied the limits of its apparent technology. Vader adjusted his course to intercept, pushing his TIE to its maximum capacity. The two vessels closed rapidly in the space between the Imperial fleet and the planet. Then, abruptly, the pod stopped, simply hung in space, impossible though that should have been without continuous thrust. The canopy opened, and a figure emerged, Vegeta, standing impossibly in the vacuum of space with no protective gear, his arms crossed over his chest armor in a posture of supreme confidence. Vader's TIE circled the stationary Scion. Scanners confirming what seemed unbelievable: the alien was surviving in hard vacuum through some unknown means. Perhaps a personal shield of energy, similar to what he had manifested during their duel. "Impressive," Vader transmitted, "but ultimately futile. Surrender, and the Emperor may yet show mercy." Vegeta's laugh came through the comm, sharp with contempt. "Your empire means nothing to me. I could destroy your entire fleet single-handedly. But I have a proposition for you, Dark Lord." Vader's interest was piqued despite his skepticism. "Speak." "You seek power," Vegeta stated. "I seek passage home." The old Togruta spoke of vergences in the Force nexus points where reality is thin. "With your Force abilities and my key, we could tear open a pathway between universes." "And why would I assist you in this?" Vader questioned. "Because before I leave," Vegeta replied, "I would help you overthrow your Emperor. You desire this, do you not? To rule the galaxy yourself?" The proposition was bold, dangerous, and treasonous. Yet Vader did not immediately reject it. The Sith philosophy demanded that the apprentice eventually challenge the master, and with an ally as powerful as the Scion. "A bold offer," Vader responded finally, "but you underestimate the Emperor's power and his foresight." "I underestimate nothing," Vegeta countered. "I've served under a tyrant before. They are all the same, powerful, yes, but ultimately vulnerable to their own arrogance. Together, we could defeat him. Afterward, I return to my universe, and you claim your throne." Before Vader could respond, proximity alarms blared in his cockpit. From behind the moon, a rebel fleet had emerged: cruisers, corvettes, and squadrons of fighters, apparently summoned by the besieged base below. The Alliance had set a trap of their own. "It seems your rebel friends have returned the favor," Vader observed. "Did you plan this distraction?" "I make no plans with weaklings," Vegeta replied dismissively, "but their arrival is fortuitous. It gives us time to continue our discussion without interference." The space around them erupted in chaos as Imperial and Rebel forces engaged. Turbo-laser fire crisscrossed the void, fighters dueled in tight formations, and capital ships maneuvered for tactical advantage. Yet in the midst of the battle, Vader's TIE and the hovering Saiyan remained in their own bubble of deadly calm. "Consider my offer," Vegeta pressed. "Power beyond anything in your galaxy, freedom from your master, a throne of your own making, not inherited through subservience." The words struck a chord within Vader. For 20 years, he had served the Emperor faithfully, believing their goals aligned. But increasingly, he had begun to question whether Palpatine had ever intended to share true power. The Sith Master kept secrets, hoarded knowledge, and maintained his apprentice in a state of perpetual dependence. "And if I refuse?" Vader asked, his mind calculating possibilities. Vegeta's smile was visible even through the TIE's view screen. "Then we conclude our duel from Mustafar, here and now." It was a simple choice, really. Accept an alliance that might lead to ultimate power, or face a battle that, Vader had to admit, he might not win. The Dark Lord had not survived this long by taking unnecessary risks. "Very well," Vader decided. "A temporary alliance. But know this, Saiyan, if you betray me, there is nowhere in this galaxy you can hide." Vegeta's laugh echoed through the comm. "Save your threats for beings who fear death, Dark Lord. Now, shall we depart this tedious battle? I believe we have plans to discuss." As the Imperial and Rebel fleets continued their engagement, Vader's TIE and Vegeta's pod slipped away, unnoticed in the chaos of combat. The Saiyan Prince and the Sith Lord, united by ambition if not by loyalty, set course for a distant sector where they could plot the downfall of an emperor and the breaching of universal barriers. Neither fully trusted the other, of course. Such was the nature of alliances between beings of power, but for now, their goals aligned sufficiently to forestall the inevitable confrontation that both knew would come. The galaxy, unaware of this momentous pact, continued its endless dance of conflict and survival, oblivious to the fact that its fate now rested in the hands of two warriors from different universes, both driven by pride, ambition, and a thirst for dominance that transcended reality itself. In the darkest reaches of the Outer Rim, far from the prying eyes of Imperial patrols or rebel scouts, an ancient temple stood silent sentinel on a forgotten moon. Once a Jedi outpost, then briefly claimed by the Sith during the Old Republic era, it had been abandoned for centuries, its existence purged from official records. Vader's shuttle settled on a landing pad, partially reclaimed by native vegetation. Beside it, Vegeta's pod created a second crater in the weathered stone. The Dark Lord emerged from his vessel, lightsaber at the ready though not ignited. Trust was a luxury neither warrior could afford. "This place reeks of old power," Vegeta commented, surveying the crumbling edifice with a critical eye. "Is this one of your Vergences?" "Yes," Vader confirmed, his mechanical breathing echoing in the stillness. "One of the most powerful. The confluence of light and dark side energies creates a nexus point where the barriers between dimensions are naturally weakened." They approached the temple entrance, where massive stone doors lay partially collapsed. Ancient symbols adorned the archway, worn by time but still radiating a subtle energy that both warriors could sense, albeit in different ways. "The Empire doesn't know of this place?" Vegeta questioned skeptically. "The Emperor believes it destroyed," Vader replied. "I discovered its continued existence years ago but kept the knowledge to myself." "Even Sith Lords maintain contingencies," Vegeta smirked. "Prudent. Your master doesn't inspire much loyalty, it seems." "The way of the Sith is strength," Vader stated. "The master rules until the apprentice becomes strong enough to overthrow him. It is our tradition." A tradition I'm familiar with, Vegeta responded, thinking of his own complicated history with Frieza. Though in my experience, tyrants rarely plan for their own succession. They entered the temple, their way illuminated by Vader's lightsaber and the subtle glow of energy Vegeta maintained around his gloved hand. The interior was cavernous, its architecture blending seamlessly with the natural rock formations of the moon. At its center, a circular chamber opened to the stars above, the ceiling having long ago collapsed. "This is the heart of the Virgins," Vader explained, gesturing to a dais at the chamber's center. "Here, the Force flows most powerfully." Vegeta approached the dais, extending his senses. Unlike the diffuse energy he had felt elsewhere in this galaxy, here the power was concentrated, almost tangible. He could almost grasp it, though it remained fundamentally different from his ki. "So what's the plan?" Vegeta demanded, turning back to Vader. "How do we use this place to open a path between worlds?" "First, we must understand precisely how you came to be here," Vader replied. "The Force responds to intention and will, but it requires direction." The Dark Lord extended his hand. "Allow me to probe your mind. Your memories of the transition may contain the key." Vegeta's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Try any mental manipulation, and I'll separate your head from that life support system you call a body." "I seek information, not control," Vader assured him, though his tone held no warmth. "The pathway must be specific to your universe, or you may find yourself in yet another reality, further from home." After a moment's consideration, Vegeta nodded curtly. "Proceed, but tread carefully." Vader extended his hand toward Vegeta's forehead, not quite touching but close enough to establish a connection through the Force. The Saiyan felt a strange pressure against his consciousness, not painful but distinctly foreign, like water flowing around a stone, seeking ingress where none existed. "Interesting," Vader murmured. "Your mind is as resistant to the Force as your body. Yet I can see echoes, images reflected on the surface of your thoughts." Vegeta maintained his mental barriers, allowing only specific memories to surface: the battle on Namek, the moment of transition, brief glimpses of his home universe. Nothing of his strategies, his weaknesses, or his true ambitions. "Enough," he growled after several minutes, stepping back to break the connection. "Did you learn anything useful, or was that merely an exercise in futility?" Vader lowered his hand, his mechanical breathing the only sound for several heartbeats. "The rift was not random," he finally stated. "Something on Namek, a power source of immense potential, resonated with the Kyber crystals beneath Mustafa's surface. The crystalline matrices vibrated in harmony, temporarily aligning the quantum signatures of both universes." "Speak plainly," Vegeta demanded. "Can we replicate the effect?" "Yes," Vader confirmed. "But it will require 3 elements. A massive surge of the specific energy from your universe, your ki, a corresponding resonance in the Force, and a focus point to align the two." "I can provide the ki," Vegeta stated confidently. "My power has only grown since arriving in this reality. And I can channel the Force," Vader continued. "But we still require a focus point. Something that exists in both universes, or at least resonates with both forms of energy." Vegeta frowned in thought. "There is nothing material I brought with me. My transition was complete." "Perhaps not material," Vader suggested, "but conceptual. The dark side and light side of the Force exist in eternal opposition, yet balance. From what I glimpsed in your thoughts, your universe contains similar dualities. The energy of creation and destruction, life and death. These fundamental concepts transcend dimensional barriers. So we channel our energies through these conceptual focal points." Vegeta sounded skeptical. "Precisely," Vader confirmed. "But the process will be dangerous. The energies involved could tear this moon apart. And there is another complication. The Emperor will sense such a massive disturbance in the Force, he will investigate personally." "Good," Vegeta replied with a predatory smile. Then our objectives align perfectly. Open the rift, confront the Emperor, defeat him, and I return to my universe while you claim your throne. It is not so simple, Vader cautioned. The Emperor's power in the Force exceeds my own, and he is a master of deception and manipulation. Many have thought themselves his equal, only to discover too late the depths of their error. You fear him, Vegeta observed, his tone somewhere between accusation and revelation. Vader's posture stiffened. Fear is a tool of the dark side. I respect his power, as any warrior should respect a dangerous opponent, Vegeta scoffed. Fear, respect meaningless distinctions. Either you believe we can defeat him, or you don't. Which is it? Before Vader could respond, a subtle shift in the air caught both warriors' attention. A presence, faint but unmistakable, brushed against their awareness. We are not alone, Vader stated, his lightsaber raised. Vegeta turned, scanning the shadows of the ancient temple. Show yourself, he commanded, or die where you hide. From behind a crumbling column stepped a hooded figure, hands raised in a gesture of peace. When they pulled back the hood, Vegeta recognized the aged Togruta from the rebel base. Ashla, he identified. You followed us. Not followed, she corrected gently. Preceded. I have been waiting for you both. Vader ignited his lightsaber, the crimson blade casting eerie shadows across the chamber. You were a Jedi, he accused. I sense it now. Once, Ashla acknowledged without fear. Long ago, before the Purge, before you became what you are now, Anakin Skywalker. The name hung in the air like a physical thing, causing Vader to take a step forward, lightsaber raised threateningly. That name no longer has any meaning for me, he growled, his mechanical voice dropping to its lowest register. You know each other, Vegeta observed, looking between them with renewed interest. We fought together during the Clone Wars, Ashla explained, her gaze never leaving Vader. Before the Emperor poisoned his mind, before he fell to the dark side. Enough, Vader commanded. Your presence here is a mistake, old one. One that will cost you your life. Ashla's serene expression didn't waver. Perhaps. But first hear me. I know what you two intend. I have foreseen it. Vegeta crossed his arms impatiently. Another mystic with visions of the future. Spare us your prophecies and get to the point. The point, Prince of Scions, Ashla replied calmly, is that I can help you. The ritual you plan requires 3, not 2, light, dark, and the balance between. Without all 3 aspects of the Force, the rift you create will be unstable, collapsing before you can pass through it. Vader lowered his lightsaber slightly, though it remained ignited. You offer your assistance freely, knowing our intention to confront the Emperor? I offer it because it is necessary, Ashla stated simply. The Force has brought the 3 of us together for this purpose. Vegeta must return to his universe. His presence here creates dangerous instabilities in the fabric of reality itself. And you, Vader. She paused, her aged eyes filled with a sadness that spanned decades. You must face your master. One way or another, that confrontation has been inevitable since the day you knelt before him. Vegeta looked between the former allies, sensing the complex history that connected them. Finally, he spoke. If what she says is true, 3 aspects of your Force, 3 points of focus to stabilize the rift. Vader extinguished his lightsaber, though he kept it in his hand. Very well. But know this, Jedi betray us, and your death will be slow. Ashla inclined her head. I understand the stakes, Lord Vader. Now, shall we prepare the ritual? We have little time before the Emperor senses our gathering power. The 3 unlikely allies moved to the center of the chamber, where the dais stood beneath the open sky. Night had fallen during their discussion, and the stars of a distant galaxy shimmered overhead, oblivious to the cosmic drama about to unfold beneath them. Ashla directed them to form a triangle around the dais, each standing at a point equidistant from the others. The vergence runs strongest through this focal point, she explained. We must channel our energies simultaneously, creating a harmonic resonance that will temporarily align the quantum signatures of both universes. How will I know the rift leads to my universe? Vegeta demanded. There could be infinite realities. Your key is attuned to your home dimension, Ashla replied. It will naturally seek that resonance, like a lodestone finding true north. Trust your instincts, Prince of Saiyans. They will guide you true. Vader, who had been silent during these preparations, finally spoke. And the Emperor? When will he arrive? He is already aware of our presence, Ashla answered grimly. I have felt his attention turning toward us since we began gathering here. He will come personally. This vergence is too powerful, and the disturbance too unusual for him to delegate its investigation. Good, Vegeta stated, his face set in a cold mask of determination. Then let us begin. I grow tired of this universe and its primitive conflicts. The three took their positions. Ashla knelt in serene meditation, her hands open on her knees, palms upward. Vader stood with his lightsaber once again ignited, its crimson glow reflecting off his black armor. Vegeta adopted a power stance, legs apart, arms at his sides, his entire body beginning to radiate a blue-white aura of pure ki energy. Focus on the point where all our energies meet, Ashla instructed. Visualize the barrier between worlds thinning, becoming permeable. See it in your mind's eye, and it will manifest in reality. The air in the chamber began to thicken, charged with invisible power. Ashla's form took on a subtle golden glow as she channeled the light side of the Force. Vader's presence darkened, shadows seeming to deepen around him as the dark side responded to his call. And Vegeta's ki aura intensified until it blazed like a star, the stone beneath his feet cracking under the pressure of his power. Above the dais, the air began to shimmer, then to ripple like the surface of disturbed water. Colors that had no name in human language flashed and swirled, forming patterns that hurt the eye to follow. The very fabric of reality was beginning to strain, to stretch thin under the combined assault of energies never meant to converge. More power, Vader commanded, his mechanical voice cutting through the growing maelstrom. The barrier resists us. Vegeta responded by unleashing more of his ki, his aura now shifting from blue-white to golden as he accessed deeper reserves of power. The ground beneath the temple began to tremble, stones falling from ancient archways as the structure itself protested the violations of natural law occurring within its walls. Careful, Ashla cautioned, her voice strained with effort. Too much uncontrolled power will collapse the vergence entirely. We must maintain balance. The vortex above the dais continued to grow, now a swirling mass of energy and distorted space-time nearly 3 meters in diameter. Through its churning center, vague images could be glimpsed alien landscapes, strange skies, possibilities, and potentialities from across the multiverse. I cannot. See my world, Vegeta growled through gritted teeth, sweat beading on his forehead despite his tremendous physical conditioning. The gateway is unfocused. You must provide the focus, Ashla called to him. Your connection to your home universe is the anchor. Concentrate on a specific location, a specific moment in time and space. Vegeta closed his eyes, focusing his mind on planet Namek, on the moment of his displacement. The vortex responded, its chaotic swirling beginning to stabilize, the images within coalescing into a more coherent scene, a landscape of blue grass and green skies, of multiple suns casting harsh light across an alien terrain. Yes, Vader confirmed, the sensors in his mask detecting the change. The quantum signature is aligning. The pathway is forming. Just as success seemed within reach, a new presence made itself felt. It descended upon the temple like a shroud, heavy and oppressive, ancient and malevolent. All three warriors sensed it simultaneously, though each perceived it differently. Palpatine, Vader identified, his mechanical voice somehow conveying grim certainty despite its limited range of inflection. "We must complete the ritual," Ashla urged, "before he can interfere." Vegeta, who had briefly paused in his power output upon sensing the new arrival, resumed with renewed intensity. "Let him come," he snarled. "I will deal with him as I deal with all who stand in my path." The vortex stabilized further, now clearly showing planet Namek on the other side. Yet it remained just out of reach, the barrier between universes stretching thin but not quite tearing. "Something still anchors me here," Vegeta realized, frustration evident in his voice. "Some force still binds me to this reality." "The Emperor," Vader stated. "He seeks to trap you in this universe, to study you, to use your power." Outside the temple, a sleek Imperial shuttle touched down, its ramp lowered to reveal a single figure in dark robes, moving with a deceptive frailty that masked terrible purpose. Emperor Palpatine had arrived personally, drawn by the disturbance in the Force that echoed across the galaxy. Within the chamber, Ashla's expression became one of grim determination. "We cannot maintain the rift much longer," she warned. "Our energies are too opposed, too unstable in combination. Vegeta must cross over now, or the chance may be lost forever." "And the Emperor?" Vader questioned, his mechanical breathing accelerating slightly in anticipation of the confrontation. "Will be dealt with," Ashla assured him. "But first, we must complete what we began. Vegeta, prepare yourself. When I give the signal, you must leap into the vortex with all your strength. The resistance will be tremendous." The Saiyan Prince nodded, gathering his power for one final surge. The golden aura around him intensified, small arcs of electricity now crackling across his form, as he accessed deeper reserves of his tremendous power. "Now!" Ashla cried, her own aura flaring brilliantly. Vegeta launched himself toward the vortex, his body surrounded by key energy like a comet streaking toward its destination. As he made contact with the swirling gateway, reality itself seemed to protest, the very air tearing with a sound like the death cry of a star. For one terrible moment, Vegeta hung suspended between worlds, partly in the temple chamber, partly on the distant plains of Namek. His face contorted in a grimace of effort as he fought against the cosmic forces that sought to keep him trapped between realities. "Holding me," he growled, his body straining against invisible bonds. At that moment, the temple doors burst open. Emperor Palpatine entered, his aged hands raised, crackling with blue lightning that arced between his fingers. His face, usually hidden in the shadows of his hood, was fully visible, pale, lined with corruption, eyes burning with the yellow fire of the dark side. "Most impressive," the Emperor's voice slithered through the chamber. "A dimensional gateway. Such power. Such potential," his gaze fixed on the suspended Saiyan. "No, my friend, you will not leave us so soon. Not when we have so much to learn from each other." Vader turned to face his master, lightsaber raised. "He is not yours to command, my master." Palpatine's expression shifted from covetous interest to cold anger. So, the apprentice finally makes his move. Predictable, disappointing. The lightning between his fingers intensified. "Did you really think I was unaware of your ambitions, Lord Vader? Of your little contingency plans?" "I serve the dark side," Vader replied, his mechanical voice betraying no emotion. "As you taught me. Then serve it on your knees." Palpatine snarled, unleashing a torrent of force lightning that struck Vader full in the chest. The Dark Lord caught some of the energy on his lightsaber, but much of it penetrated his defenses, playing across his armor and the life support systems that kept him alive. He staggered but did not fall, decades of pain and suffering having inured him to even this terrible assault. Ashla, seeing the Emperor's attention focused on Vader, redoubled her efforts to stabilize the gateway. "Vegeta," she called, "one final push, break free." The Saiyan Prince, still suspended between realities, gathered the last reserves of his tremendous power. His aura flared blindingly, the golden light now tinged with the blue-white of his base ki, creating a swirling maelstrom of energy that mirrored the vortex itself. With a roar that seemed to shake the foundations of the temple, Vegeta tore himself free of the Emperor's telekinetic grip and plunged fully into the dimensional gateway. For one instant, his form was silhouetted against the alien landscape beyond, proud, indomitable, a prince once more returning to claim his birthright. Then he was gone, the vortex, collapsing behind him with a thunderclap that knocked both Ashla and Palpatine to the ground. Only Vader remained standing, his lightsaber still ignited, now turned toward his master who was rising slowly from the stone floor. "You have failed, my master," Vader stated. "The Saiyan is beyond your reach." Palpatine's face contorted with fury, then smoothed into a cold mask of calculation. "Perhaps. But you, my apprentice, are not." He raised his hands once more, lightning gathering between his gnarled fingers. "Your betrayal ends here." "No," Ashla interposed herself between the Sith Lords, her own hands raised defensively. "It ends with me." With a gesture both graceful and definitive, the aged Togruta released the full measure of light side energy she had been gathering throughout the ritual. It burst forth in a wave of pure force energy, blinding in its intensity, sweeping through the chamber like a cleansing tide. Vader was knocked back against a column. Palpatine screamed in rage and pain as the light side energy washed over him, temporarily neutralizing his dark side powers. When vision returned, the Emperor found himself alone with Vader in the chamber. Ashla had vanished, whether destroyed by her own power or simply translated elsewhere by the Force, none could say. "It seems we are at an impasse, my apprentice," Palpatine observed, his voice once again controlled, though rage simmered beneath the surface. "Your allies are gone, your plans in ruins. Yet still you stand against me." Vader rose to his full height, lightsaber at the ready. "The way of the Sith," he replied simply. "Indeed," the Emperor acknowledged with a thin smile. "The apprentice must challenge the master. But are you ready, Lord Vader, truly ready to assume the mantle of Dark Lord of the Sith?" The question hung in the air between them, loaded with decades of manipulation, lies, and broken promises. In that moment, Vader saw with perfect clarity the choice before him to strike now, wounded but resolute, or to kneel once more and continue the charade of loyalty while seeking greater power. The ancient temple, having witnessed too many violations of natural law in one night, chose that moment to make its own decision. With a groaning of stone and a rending of timber, the structure began to collapse around them, weakened by the tremendous energies that had been unleashed within its walls. "Another time, perhaps," Palpatine suggested, already moving toward the exit with the spryness that belied his apparent age. "If you survive." Vader watched his master depart, calculating his own chances. The damage to his life support systems was significant. The temple was moments from total collapse, and the Emperor, despite the temporary setback, remained as dangerous as ever. With a final look at the dais where the dimensional gateway had formed, Vader turned and strode from the chamber, his cape billowing behind him. The confrontation with his master would come, as it must, but not this day, not until he had fully processed what he had witnessed and learned from the Saiyan Prince. As his shuttle lifted off from the doomed moon, Vader gazed out at the stars that dotted the void. Somewhere beyond those stars, in a reality parallel to his own, Vegeta had returned to his battles, his rivals, his destiny. For a brief moment, the Dark Lord felt something akin to envy for the alien warrior's freedom. Freedom from masters, from the burdens of a broken body, from a past that could never be undone. The feeling passed quickly, buried beneath layers of discipline and dark side energy. But its echo remained, a small crack in the armor of the man who had once been Anakin Skywalker. A crack through which, perhaps, a sliver of light might one day penetrate. In the vastness of space, the Dark Lord's shuttle vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind a moon shattered by forces beyond mortal comprehension and a chapter of galactic history that would remain forever. unwritten in the official records of the Empire. On planet Namek, beneath alien skies of green and turquoise, a vortex of energy tore open the fabric of reality. From within its swirling depths emerged a figure wreathed in golden light, his proud features set in a grimace of effort that quickly gave way to a triumphant smirk. Vegeta, Prince of Saiyans, had returned. The landscape around him was exactly as he remembered the moment of his displacement, frozen in time, as if the universe had been waiting for his return to resume its natural flow. In the distance, the battles that had been raging continued unabated, unaware of the cosmic hiccup that had temporarily removed one of their participants. Vegeta's smirk deepened as he surveyed the familiar terrain. His time in that other galaxy, with its force, its empire, its rebels, already seemed like a distant dream. Yet he knew it had been real. The power he had witnessed there, different from but comparable to his own, had given him a new perspective on his own abilities. The Saiyan Prince turned his gaze toward the horizon, where he could sense the battle between Frieza and his Saiyan rival continuing. Kakarot Goku, as he now called himself, would be there, fighting for his friends, for his adopted world, for his naive ideals of justice and mercy. Vegeta's hands clenched into fists at his sides, golden energy flickering around them. In that other reality, he had glimpsed what it meant to be truly bound by a master's will to be remade into something less than oneself. Vader's existence had been a shadow of what might have been, potential squandered in service to a tyrant's ambition. Never again, Vegeta murmured to himself, his voice carried away by the alien wind. I bow to no one, not to Frieza, not to Kakarot, not to any force in this universe or beyond. With that declaration, the Saiyan Prince launched himself into the sky, a streak of golden energy against the green expanse above. He flew toward the distant battle, toward his destiny, not as a servant, not as a pawn, but as a prince, as himself. Behind him, the last vestige of the dimensional gateway collapsed with a final whisper of energy, closing the door between realities once more. The cosmos resumed its ordained path, the momentary anomaly already fading from the greater tapestry of existence. Yet in that other galaxy far, far away, the echoes of the Saiyan Prince's presence would continue to reverberate in the mechanical mind of a fallen Jedi, in the strategic calculations of an emperor, in the hopes of a rebellion fighting against seemingly impossible odds. For power recognizes power across all boundaries of time and space. And pride, that most essential element of the warrior's spirit, transcends even the barriers between universes.